Last night on Super Tuesday, Bernie Sanders was soundly defeated by Joe Biden in the majority of Super Tuesday states. Naturally, many of the Bernie Sanders supporters are crying foul, calling it a rigged primary, saying Bernie or bust 2020. Some Democrats are cheering the voter turnout because it was up in some states. But if a portion of Bernie voters are going Bernie or bust, don't count on it. Especially considering Trump's support in some states is also up dramatically when they didn't even need to go out to the primary. Now, here's the thing. This defeat was well-deserved, and it's about time. These people learned that their opinions and ideas are fringe. The majority of Americans do not agree with them and want a viable alternative to Donald Trump. Now, I will be fair and say the people rallying behind Joe Biden don't actually know what they're voting for, because the polls have been swinging up and down, left and right, and make no sense. A lot of people want a moderate candidate. So the moderates bowed out, got behind Joe Biden, and in my opinion, that is horrifying. That was the best they could do, but hey, that's the best they could do. Now, while Bernie Sanders supporters and the far left are screaming that it was a coup, that it was rigged, they're blaming the media. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, for instance, was nearly crying in a video published on Twitter talking about Bernie Sanders' defeat. Now, it's possible Bernie Sanders still pulls ahead. But most of these people on the far left, these socialists, they are the few and far between. Their opinions are fringe. And even though the Democratic establishment and the media, of course they lie, of course they play games, guess what? They're not manipulating votes. They're not showing up and changing numbers. Regular Americans are coming out and voting against you. And it's about time you learn your lesson and stop pushing insane fringe conspiracy theories implying that the vote numbers had been changed. The reality is the moderate vote was split to begin with Klobuchar, with Buttigieg, with Biden and Bloomberg. And many Bernie supporters were bragging that these people were splitting up the moderate votes, giving Bernie the lead he needs because the progressives will rally behind him. So what happens? The moderate Democrats drop out, endorse Joe, and now they're crying foul about it. You knew exactly what was happening. I look back to 2016 when Bernie was saying, we're going to a contested convention. Now saying, no, we shouldn't go to a contested convention. Spare me. Your opinions change when you are set to gain or lose power. That's what it's all about. But I want to show you something. It's not just about Bernie Sanders. You want to know the proof that the progressives are the odd people out there, the losers? So back in 2018, The Economist released data showing that the overwhelming majority, I think out of like 78, 71 primaries were won by moderate Democrats. Ocasio-Cortez was a fluke. Her opponent, Joe Crowley, was arrogant and didn't debate her and didn't think he needed to do anything. He ended up losing. Ocasio-Cortez might actually lose her seat when her primary comes up in a couple months. The fact is, many progressives who ran primaries yesterday lost terribly to the moderate established Democrats, proving it's not about a rigged primary. It's not about a rigged election against Bernie Sanders. It's about regular Americans in the Democratic Party saying no to socialism. And I'm going to start with one of the best examples. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. But before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video. Now, I absolutely do not think we're going to be breaking any echo chambers on this one because I'm pointing out that in a video, Cenk Uygur was nearly in tears. And a lot of people who support Bernie Sanders are just not going to want to hear it. Maybe you're one of these people. Maybe you don't like me. I can respect that. Please, if you hate me, you're allowed to. Comment below and tell me exactly why. But you can at least listen to what I think and why, even if you think I'm wrong. Now, I also noticed a lot of people haven't subscribed. YouTube, they do things to hurt my channel. Yesterday, my video was demonetized for no reason. My second channel, it happens all the time. The algorithm is absolutely impacting my channel and other people's channels. So make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you do want to get videos that I produce. Keeping in mind, it's only a matter of time before they give my channel the axe too. But let me show you the first story. I've got a series of stories to show you why the far left Democrats deserved this defeat. They are fringe, and they have been convinced by the echo chamber of Twitter that they have more power than they really do. The Young Turks founder, Cenk Uygur, loses bid for Katie Hill's congressional seat. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, one of the biggest independent political commentary organizations on the internet, maybe even in the world, with millions of subscribers. Guess what he mustered? Around 5%. That's it. in California, where he's supposed to be, in his stronghold or whatever, he couldn't even get more than 5% of the primary vote. And he's famous, and I believe he's a millionaire. He couldn't get any support. Now, isn't that strange? Even Bloomberg was able to buy support with commercials. The Wrap reports, Cenk Uygur, the host and creator of the progressive news and opinion program, the Young Turks, lost his bid for the congressional seat vacated by Katie Hill. According to the New York Times, he came in 4th place with about 5% of the vote in California's 25th congressional district. In the lead were Democratic Assemblywoman Christy Smith and Republican defense contractor Mike Garcia, who appear headed for a runoff election. According to the LA Times, former GOP rep Steve Knight, who lost his seat to Hill in 2008, sought to get it back. He came in 3rd place. According to the LA Times, the primary looked likely to produce 2 Smith-Garcia runoffs, one in May to fill Hill's seat for the rest of 2020, and a second in November for the full 2-year term beginning in January. Whether it is reporting on politics on his online media company, the Young Turks, co-founding Justice Democrats and electing true progressives to office, founding Wolfpack, an organization dedicated to getting big money out of politics, Cenk Uygur has been committed to rooting out corruption in Washington, ending the influence of big money on our politicians, and fighting for policies that improve the lives of every single American, his campaign website reads. Uygur was endorsed by Ro Khanna, etc., etc. He received praise from Andrew Yang, John Cusack. However, as we can see here, I'm starting with Cenk because he's famous and he's wealthy. If any one of these people should have won, it would have been him. But for all his wealth, all of his influence, everything he believed, he couldn't even get 5%, and he came in 4th place. Why? The moderate Democratic Assemblywoman won. Period. But wait, there's more. Down in South Texas, Henry Cuellar defeats Jessica Cisneros, progressive challenger backed by Warren and AOC. That's right. Ocasio-Cortez endorsed a progressive, and the progressive lost, just like in 2018. You want to know how the Democrats won back the House? Moderates in red districts campaigning on moderate policies, promising to address kitchen table issues. Now they're in trouble, and I'll tell you why. Instead of coming out on kitchen table issues like healthcare, jobs, and immigration, what did they do? Orange man bad. And that's the fault of people like AOC who demanded it. Nancy Pelosi led them down this path, and now they are going to lose, at least in my opinion. I could be wrong. I was wrong in 2018. We'll see what happens. I don't see why they will win, especially when I show you the turnout numbers. A lot of Democrats are cheering, saying, look at our turnout, it is so high. Wait till you see what Donald Trump's turnout is. It's even better. But first, let's read about these progressives who lost, because there's a couple more I want to show you. They say Loretto Rep. Henry Cuellar, one of the most conservative Democrats in Congress, fended off a serious primary challenge from Jessica Cisneros, a 26-year-old immigration lawyer who brought the full force of the progressive left to South Texas. This is South Texas. South Texas went for Bernie Sanders. That's my understanding, okay? This is a very progressive area, yet an immigration lawyer could not win there. They wanted the conservative Democrat. Cuellar, an 8-term incumbent, secured a narrow victory early Wednesday in one of the most closely watched races across Texas, if not the country. That high profile was saying something, too, given the unusually competitive primary season that formed in the Lone Star State after 6 Republican congressmen decided to call it quits, and Democrats targeted pickup opportunities in a number of other shifting districts. While much of the attention centered on North Texas, the state's primary map was chock full of intriguing matchups. In South Texas, Cisneros came out of nowhere to put Cuellar on the defensive. She tagged him as an out-of-touch faux Democrat while earning endorsements from progressive all-stars like Warren and AOC. But Cuellar was backed by Nancy Pelosi and groups funded by the Kochs, a family of GOP megadonors. Countered that Cisneros Cisneros was an uninformed interloper who didn't understand the centrist sensibilities of a border district that stretches from McAllen to San Antonio. So that's the moderate coming after the progressive. But now we jump over to California, where I'm sad to see Nancy Pelosi has actually defended her district. But can I say I'm surprised? I mean, she's the leader of the party. She's going to win, right? I mean, she's the leader of the party now. She was facing several challenges. Notably, Agatha Basilar was one of the prominent personalities set to run against her. And unfortunately, she could only muster around 1.4% of the vote. The progressive challengers absolutely did not pull through. And I know why. Look, as I stated earlier in this video, that these progressive values that a lot of these people espouse are fringe. Look, I'm not trying to rag on y'all who hold these views, but the reality is most of America does not agree. In the past year, Gallup tracked that less people identify as Democrats now and more people identify as conservatives. That's called walk away. There's a reason why your politics are hurting the left. Americans don't want them. Now, I have the results here just to quickly show you. Joe Biden beating Bernie Sanders. But I want to show you why that happened. Many young voters sat out Super Tuesday, contributing to Bernie Sanders' losses. This is like the get woke, go broke of politics. When they do these movies that embrace this fringe, ridiculous ideology and then don't make any money, and they're like, oh, I'm so shocked this would happen. Why? We made a movie about something that no one likes and no one agrees with, and we lost money doing it. How could that have happened? This is the same thing. You ever see that episode of South Park where the hippies show up and the town agrees to put on this big hippie festival? And then when Cartman is going nuts saying, like, don't do it, the mayor says, but it'll be great. We'll make a lot of money. He says, hippies don't have money. This is the same thing. Why are you going after the youth vote? They never come out to vote. These people pretend like they care about the revolution. They want to fit in. But do you think they want to get up and go vote? No, they're playing video games, dude. They don't care. It has always been this way. Now, fine, if you want to rally young people, I understand why you would, because they tend to vote progressive. We've seen some Democrats saying, let's lower the voting age to 16. Why? They're not going to come out. They're going to go with their friends to Burger King and have a burger and flick French fries at each other. I know. That's what me and my friends used to do. We go to Wendy's. We go skate. I'm not going to do this. We wouldn't come out for this. We're at the park. You're out on election day, and we got all the streets to ourselves. You think we care about this? Listen, man. Now I'm an old man, nearing the age of 34 in just a week. So I can't speak for the youngsters today. No siree. But guess what? They still didn't come out. You bet on a faction of people that could not produce. Why would you do that? Well, the reality is, without that support, Bernie Sanders doesn't really fit anything in. He's not a contender if that's the case. They brag about the youth vote because that's the insurgent group backing Sanders who just absolutely didn't come out. 13% of the vote. 13% was the youth vote. That's it. That's the stats that I saw. That's crazy. But guess what? As always, it's the old people who come out to vote. And that's probably one of the reasons why Joe Biden won. They also say at the week, Biden's coalition showed up on Super Tuesday. Bernie's did not. Because Bernie bet on people who don't have money. I'm saying that figuratively. Don't make products for people who don't buy your product. Don't try and rally the support of a group that doesn't vote. You'll lose. But what does Bernie really have in that regard anyway? His views are not widely accepted by the older generation. The only reason he's in the race at all is because young people act like they care. And then when it comes down to the vote, they don't care. It's fake. Young people just trying to fit in. That's what it is. Now, for all you real legit Bernie supporters, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. They did not come out for you. They don't really support you. The ideas you hold, this fringe woke ideology, nobody likes it. Nobody wants to hear it. I'm exaggerating when I say nobody. Obviously, there's enough people to cause problems for a lot of other people. But guess what? Joe Biden's winning, not because of a grand conspiracy. Please drop the rigged primary. It wasn't rigged because the Democratic Party establishment rallied around their candidates. You can argue they're absolutely rallying to stop you. I think they are. I think that's fair. You can argue the media is lying. 100%. You can tell me the Democrats will absolutely sabotage their own party to stop Bernie Sanders. And I agree. Joe Biden. Like, come on. That's the guy they endorsed. What, they didn't think Buttigieg could do it? But it's not a rigged primary. That's implying votes were changed or something. Now, it may go to a brokered convention. Fine. There's a lot of things that are rigged about it. I'll accept that. And I will absolutely give a little bit to the people who are saying rigged primary, because I've certainly been there as well, talking about how the rules they set up and the games they play. But let me tell you something. Bernie Sanders was in favor of a contested convention last time. He's saying, the delegate. Now he's not. Why? Because he thought he was going to get the delegates. That's why he said it. Well, I hope he stands by what he says. And when Joe Biden gets the most delegates, he doesn't go for a brokered convention and bows out. But how much you want to bet he won't do it? Now that Biden's in the lead, I would be willing to bet Bernie Sanders says, no, absolutely not. We will not be stopped by the establishment. Brokered convention again, even though he said on the debate stage, not the case, right? Now let's talk about why this means, in my opinion, Donald Trump is going to absolutely win. We see that many people aren't going to show up. We see on this thread, Bernie or bust 2020. Keep that in mind, that Bernie or bust. And now we see this. Turnout in Texas has already blown past the 1.4 million votes cast in the 2016 primary race between Sanders and Clinton. That's true. 1.95. Now, hold on a second, though. The race in 2016 had only 2 real frontrunners. And so they brought in about 1.4 million. Today, we can see that the Democratic candidates have brought in around 1.9 million. However, there were 4 leading candidates. And you also have this pushback to stop socialism. They're sitting now around 1.92 million votes cast in Texas. Now, you want to know why this number is not impressive? First, Bernie or bust. If the Bernie voters of 592,000 are saying Bernie or bust, I'm not going to pretend that every single one of them won't vote for Biden, but maybe 10, 20% won't, right? 10 or 20% of Bernie voters bow out, which means around 100 or 120,000 votes lost. Now, let's calculate Donald Trump's primary victory in Texas. This will blow your mind. Around the exact same number of votes cast in the Republican primary. You want to know why that's crazy? Because Donald Trump's running unopposed. Why bother going out and vote? A lot of people probably didn't. Now, here's where it gets truly crazy. The results of the 2016 Texas Republican primary saw Donald Trump with 758,000 votes. Today, he has around 2.6 times more votes in an uncontested primary race. Let's take a look at this. Ted Cruz won the primary. Well, he was from Texas. It made sense. Trump won some areas. Surprisingly, Trump won some areas on the border. 758,000 votes in 2016. And yesterday, 1.88 million votes cast. The total Republicans got 1.95. I made a little spreadsheet for you. We can see that the Democrats mustered 1,952,716. The Republicans got 1,952,542, a difference of just over 100 or so, around 100 or so votes more. 150 or so more votes cast for the Democrats. That's it. Great. Now move in. Now they said Texas might be a swing state. Okay. Let's move into November then, when you calculate Bernie or bust. Look at this. It's a nationwide trend right now. Bernie or bust 2020. We can see all of these people, Bernie or bust. They will not vote for anyone else. You know what that means? It means that fancy number is not going to come out and vote against Trump. It also means that for some reason, people came out to support Donald Trump, 2.6 times more people in Texas than last time, in a primary race they did not need to vote in. The race among Democrats was an actual race for the nomination. If you were a Bernie supporter, you had to come out. Trump didn't need your vote. He was going to win anyway. Yet somehow, these people came out for Trump. With the progressive left being crushed, with Joe Biden being out of his mind completely, I absolutely believe that we are about to witness a major, massive Trump landslide. And now, let's talk about the reality of Bernie Sanders. Former prisoner recalls Sanders saying, "I don't know what's so wrong with Cuba." Maybe I'll do a longer segment on this at 6, because I don't want to get into too much beyond this. I think we've sort of talked about a lot that we can talk about. But Bernie Sanders has made it a habit of surrounding himself with really, really messed up people. He's catering to really messed up people. His staff say violent things, and he lost, and they scream conspiracy, coup, it's rigged, etc. To a certain degree, I get it. To a certain degree, I agree with you. To a certain degree, I agree with you. Cenk Uygur was smeared by the media. He absolutely was, but he couldn't even get 5%. Sorry, man. I'm impressed with how well Bernie has done so far. But he's surrounded by people like Linda Sarsour, Sean King, the staffers that were exposed at Project Veritas. We know exactly what he surrounds himself with. And I absolutely do not respect him because of it. He should not be the nominee, and he wouldn't win anyway. I hope this was a dose of reality for all of these people, but unfortunately, it seems like it wasn't. They're screaming that they're being cheated, that's being rigged. Let's do a countdown until Bernie Sanders calls for a brokered convention, because I think he's gonna get a decent amount of delegates, but he's not going to cross that threshold. They're going to go to round 2 of voting. Super delegates are going to come in, and it looks like it'll go to Biden because Michael Bloomberg bowed out. So I'll end by saying one thing, or I'll end with this. I didn't think Joe Biden was going to be able to pull it off. I didn't think he was a front runner. I was basing those opinions off of the current data showing he was tanking in the polls. He was failing and losing. None of it made sense, but now he is the front runner. Now he is winning. The progressives all got crushed, absolutely crushed. Some of them only getting around 1%. And of the most famous, Cenk Uygur couldn't even get more than 5. You think Bernie can win at a national level? It would be McGovern all over again. It would be like Mondale and Reagan. Trump will win over 400 electoral votes. He will win 40 states. Who knows? Even against Joe Biden, I do not see this going well for Democrats. Because Biden, just the other day, get this, he's doing his victory speech, right? And he actually introduces his wife as his sister and his sister as his wife, and then says, they switched on me. No, they didn't. They were standing behind him in the same spot the whole time, and he mixed them up because Joe Biden doesn't know what's happening. But people would rather vote for a crazy old man who can't talk straight than a socialist. Mind you, a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack. But I will give Bernie the respect that he deserves in getting as far as he did. It's just not enough. I'll say this. If things continue on this path, don't be surprised when younger people get older and start voting, potentially voting for someone who is a socialist or far leftist later on. Bernie may be paving the way. I kind of don't think it'll be the case for 2 reasons. Young people don't vote, and when people get older, they become more conservative. In which case, I do not see socialism actually taking off, but I could be wrong. It'll be a couple of years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I'll be like, man, I was sure wrong about that when that happened. But in the end, I hope you see exactly, I hope you understand why I think the way I do. That Donald Trump is going to landslide, and it is going to be a historic victory for the Republican Party. As more data rolls in, as they claim our numbers are great, voter turnout is huge. What we're really seeing, though, is an insurgency, the failure of the far left, and somehow Donald Trump matched the vote in Texas. You want to talk about voter turnout? Don't forget to include the Republican numbers when no one needed to even turn out in the first place. 200,000 people could turn out, guarantee Trump the victory in Texas, but 1.88 million people decided to vote for Trump, even though he's essentially uncontested. That to me is shocking. People really love this guy, and you're going to see it in November. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you all then.